Morning, everybody. Hope everybody's doing great. Happy middle of the week. I can feel, for those of you who are on the East Coast, we can sort of like feel the heat coming out. I think the West Coasters have been feeling that for, I don't know, 6 months. Do you guys even have cold weather out there? But you can almost feel summer coming up. This is an opportunity to really grow, and the world is changing. We're living in incredible times. This has been an incredible week. On so many levels, the world is really shaking. Yesterday and 2 days ago, we spoke about this idea of the image, what it does to us, how it can send us down the road at a level in which we are pursuing things that deep down are not fulfilling us. It's so critical that when you think about your day, when you think about your year, we not only go after things, but we go after the right things. Because the way your mind works is that your mind has the ability to create meaning out of anything. And we've all experienced this, and I think we've spoken about this in the show before. We have this incredible ability to wake up in the morning and get lost in the trees. That's why, like we said here, someone will watch a movie and cry that somebody on the movie died, even though they know that the person who died on the movie screen got an Oscar for dying and is sitting in a big, huge mansion somewhere in California because they are the best dyer in the world. And yet that person who just spent how much money to go see that person on screen is crying when nothing actually happened in real life. You see this sometimes with people when they have physical illnesses with regards to things that they know doesn't really matter. It doesn't really, really matter whether you win that game for many people. But it changes them physically. They do things to harm their body. They do things to put themselves at risk. Because when you get lost in something, your brain has a very hard time to pull back. When we are not careful with our own mind, we end up pursuing things that don't really fill us up. We pursue them for ancillary reasons. Remember, they're really the core of something that is exotelic. Those are hearing that for the first time. Oh no. Oh, 32. Oh, it's 32 degrees in Illinois. Oh my gosh. Okay. Hopefully we'll get there. If we pursue things that are not fully meaningful to us, so to speak, the worst that can happen many times is that we get it. There's a lot of things in life that we're after that if we get, will actually take us further from who we are. There are jobs, there are friendships, there are transactions that if we succeed at that in which we want, it may actually be worse for us in the long run. This happens many times with relationships, where one person is really going after another, and the people around that person is thinking that's not a great thing. And if that person succeeds in the relationship, it could be more harmful. That's like that in our lives. And if we're not trying to articulate why we want something and deepening our reasons for pursuing things, deepening our vision, understanding who we are. Oh, 32 degrees Celsius. Thank you, Andy. All right. It's 90. It's 90 in Illinois. Awesome. That's great. That's right. 32 degrees Celsius. If we're not doing that properly, then we may be going after things that takes us away from the core of who we are. this image, this need for someone to pat us on the back, this need for us to be competing, this need for the society around us to tell us who we are, the trophies of whatever micro society that we live in, this pursuit of significance comes initially from our soul. It comes from this desire to unleash the greatness that is within us, but it gets lost in this world of social acceptance as our brain sort of starts to manage surviving in a world where social acceptance is critical. Yesterday, we spoke about this idea of the shell of the life force, and how each and every one of us has the ability to look at one thing or another. And today, I want to talk about why that's so critical. So if you remember, we spoke a little bit about the research done by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi last week. It was under the concept of flow. Why is flow so critical for us? So we touched on this. And for those who have read the book or have gone with me to Israel, you know that one of my favorite words that I use a lot is schema. Schema is a filter that you put over your brain, that you don't put over, that was given to us, so to speak. When we go out and look into this world, our nervous system can't handle all the stimuli that comes at us. So what happens to us is that our brain chooses the things to focus on. When you go through your life, and I'm sure we've spoken about this before, but we'll just touch on it again. When you go through life, you're not actually seeing reality. Reality has too many pieces to it. Reality has too many bits of stimuli to it. Reality is too focused on, reality has too many things to focus on. It's like trying to get a cup of water and putting your mouth on a fire hose. It's too much. You can't swallow that much. Well, your brain can't swallow everything that's around it. All the sounds, all the motions, all the nuances. It's too much. And if your brain would have to take in a fire hose of information every second, all you'd be doing all day is filtering in information. So what your brain does is your brain starts, I mean, it's a incredible piece of our mind, is your brain automatically, if you will, looks out into the world and filters things for you. So when you walk into a supermarket and you're trying to find things off your list and someone has a cart with a squeaky wheel 2 aisles over, that sound of the squeaky cart that your ear hears comes into your ear. You have it. It goes into your brain. But you don't actually hear it in your conscious brain. You don't actually hear the sound necessarily. Why? The answer is because your brain automatically checks the sound and says to itself, is this dangerous? Is this relevant? If not, I don't need it. And it filters it right out. It doesn't get into your conscious mind. You don't hear the cereal box. Like I say, you don't hear that passive-aggressive husband on aisle 4 telling his wife, there is no oregano. Oh, here it is. I'll be home in 15 minutes. All of that is not relevant to you, and all of that is not dangerous to you. And if it's not dangerous or relevant, your brain will take it in and filter it right out. So you can go into the supermarket and be oblivious to 80% of the noises and the sounds and the stimuli that takes place in that supermarket because you got to get your list done. You can walk into a room and be oblivious that people are fighting with each other and smirking and giving each other passive-aggressive one-liners, and this thing fell and the cake fell in the corner and the baby's crying, and you could be walking into a party and talking to a few people and being like, that was amazing. And the person next to you will be like, what? And you're like, what? What's going on? How many times have you done this? You walked into like a bar mitzvah or to a synagogue or to an event and you're like, that was phenomenal. And the person running the event was like, oh my God, that was terrible. And you're like, were we in the same place? The difference is that the person running the event, his or her brain is picking up all the stuff going wrong to fix it. The person enjoying the event is just picking up all the things right to enjoy it. Well, what is it? Was it right or was it wrong? Was it good or was it bad? The answer is it depends. It depends on who's viewing it. It depends on whose perspective are you looking at. One of the great mistakes that we make in life is that we think that life is about understanding reality. You'll never understand reality. You'll never understand reality. We'll never be able to understand reality because we'll never be able to digest reality. Reality is too big for us. That's like saying I can understand what's taking place in another state today. I have no idea what's going on. The goal isn't to understand reality. The goal is to understand our perspective of reality. The real work in life is not to figure out somebody else. No, the real work in life is to figure out me as I see somebody else. I'm not trying to understand what makes them tick. I'm trying to understand how I process what they're saying so that I can give them more. If I'm even trying to understand what makes them tick, it's only so that I can clarify my own perspective to them. So when they say good morning with a angry tone, I'm only trying to understand that they're not really angry. That's just the sound of their voice. Not so that I can somehow manipulate or figure them out. It's because I need to know for myself that when I hear angry tone, don't get upset, so that I can treat them properly. We spend so much of our lives trying to figure out the world when really what we have to spend most of our time doing is figuring out how we process the world, how the world impacts us. How come we feel certain things? How come we think we can predict certain things? What part of our brain thinks that I can do this or I can do that, or I can say, where is it coming from? How come when I walk into a room, I automatically feel threatened by these people? Sometimes I'll be talking to someone and they'll make sweeping comments against people. Oh, these people blank. And I'm thinking what part of your brain is so threatened, insecure, that you think that you can make an accurate assessment against an entire group of individuals who you probably know nothing about? That person's not going to figure out the group. The person's got to say, whoa, wait a second. What is it about this group that gets me crazy? Why am I looking at this person and judging them? Why do I think I know what's going on in the minds of people that I don't even know? The more we're questioning, the more we're clarifying, the more we are focused on our perspective of the world, the more the world changes around us. This is one of the great mistakes we make with relationships. It's like when I can get the person relationship to submit to the way I see the world, it'll be great. Parents to kid, kids to each other. This whole concept is underlying so much of the rhetoric and of the pain and of the anger that we all feel. Why is it that everyone has to yell at each other? Why is the person who's speaking always right? It's because we spend so much time trying to convince you that if you just listen to me, your life would be better. And then a person's going, what? If you would just listen to me, and both parties, regardless if it's in a country, regardless if it's in a community, regardless if it's in a marriage, it's the same stuff. Just people turning to each other and being like, when you'll figure me out, it'll make total sense because clearly I'm right. You know why we feel that way? Because we only know ourselves. We don't know anybody else. So in our minds, it makes perfect sense. But guess what? We don't realize that we have a very specific upbringing. We had a very specific exposure. And we see the world in a very specific way. And we don't see the world through everyone's eyes. So in my trajectory of life, these things make sense to the person with that trajectory. That's why one of the greatest adages in Torah is the rabbis teach us you can't judge somebody until you reach their place. Why is that? Because the rabbis are teaching us, you think you know what it's like to be that person? Anyone here raising children? You could have twins living in the same home, in the same room. They live different lives. They have different souls, They have different nuances. One's older than the other. They may sit in different classrooms. They may sit at different places in the table. But their perspectives are different. When your perspective is different, you don't know what's going on in that person's head. So according to us, with all the stimuli around us, this is what makes sense. Great. Well, wonderful. Well, guess what? You don't have what someone else has. So maybe if you were living completely in their lives, you or me would see it the way they see it. But that requires us to realize that we're a work in progress, like we spoke about a few shows ago. And for those who have been with me for a while, we're circling. For those who are here for the first time, don't leave. Just keep on circling with us with God's help. We're a work in progress. We don't have it all figured out. I can be 95 years old. I don't got to figure it out. And if some 20-year-old shows up and says an insight, that may make sense. This concept that what we really need to be working on is our minds, is our perspective. Do I understand somebody else? Can I give them the benefit of that? Maybe if I put myself in their mind, I don't know if we did this here or not, the concept of empathy. Maybe I would think closer to the way they're thinking. Maybe I don't understand someone else's pain. Maybe there's stimuli around me that I'm just not getting. I'm just missing it. Because when I walk down the road, I don't catch these things. And by the way, I'll tell you, it's getting even worse. And I'll tell you why it's getting worse. I'm sure we all know this already. But back in the old days, I mean, like when I grew up, there used to be a television in the house. And it was one television or two televisions. And there were like 5, 8, 9 channels. That's all you got. Anyone under the age of 30, you're like, what are you talking about? We sat in a room and there was a TV. And there were like 8 to 10 channels. That's it. You have to wait for the 8 o'clock Cosby show or something. I don't remember. That's it. You saw the news. We all saw the same news. You choose between ABC and CBS and NBC, but that was what you got. Today, you know what's happening based on algorithms is that everyone gets to look at the stuff online that you like looking at already. So you get to go online and read the news that already agrees with you. So I get to wake up in the morning and go, I knew I was right. And our job is to question even our own perspective, to have beliefs, have values, but to leave room to open up someone else's perspective, someone else's stimuli. But why is it so critical for? It's not just in relationships. I'll tell you why this is so critical. Is because your beliefs are shaping your schema. Your beliefs of what's true and what's not true is shaping your perspective. It's not just politically. It's image. If your belief is that I'm only valuable if I make a certain amount of money or if I achieve a certain amount of social status, then that filter around you looks into the world and says, how do I make more? How do I achieve more? The filter is going to change based on the beliefs that you hold. If your beliefs are, this is my group, then your emotions will change whether that group wins or not. But unless we are clear with what our core values are, like really what our core values are, what do we stand for? Where does it come from? What source am I turning to get my values? Our brains could be walking through our lives and missing stuff every day. We're bringing stuff in that we don't need every single day. We're going to talk about this more, obviously. But for today, let's just take a look at it together. Let's take a look at it together. And we have a 1 o'clock today for those who want on the Momentum page. We've got a marriage class that we're giving, Lori Palatnik and I. We're going to talk a lot about this there for those who can join that. But we're going to talk about this. Here, it's Andy posted it. How your beliefs are shaping your schema and how your schema is shaping your feelings, which is shaping what we're going after. We got to hit those values. We got to recognize the mind is bringing things in or taking things out. And as we start going after our own schemas, we start realizing there's a lot of life that's right before our eyes. All right. Thanks so much, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We got a lot more to talk about, but hopefully we'll do it together. So today, just take a look at it. Question your own thinking. It's good. It's good to question yourself. With God's help, I can't wait to speak to you again tomorrow. Have a great day.